Hey everyone, happy October 31st and Halloween. And what are you doing tonight? Are you going out? Do you dress up? I don't. Tonight will be about the grandson, if anything, tonight. But anyway, regardless, I want to talk about with you all a couple of topics and then we'll get into this week's work. One thing is, as looking at next semester, if you're looking ahead, hopefully some of you are considering taking CIT85, which is the logical next course to take after this one. And it used to be a requirement that you had to take 82 to take 85, but we've changed that to where it's not a requirement, but it is definitely a suggestion. Now, the difference going to be next semester is I'm not teaching it. I normally teach that class. Todd McLeod is going to be teaching that class, and the other difference is instead of online, it's going to be face-to-face. But I'd recommend you very much consider taking that class at CIT85, Creating Websites. It's basically going to be HTML5, which means CSS. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is really the umbrella term when we talk about HTML5. So I want to just give that class a plug. I think it's actually going to do well. Todd's really been doing some great work promoting this into his students as well. But if you want to continue what you're learning here into the next logical step, that's the course you need to think about taking. All right. Okay, so this week, what are we doing this week? We're going to actually, I was thinking about this and I was thinking about, because normally I would start payment systems, and I've decided to spend another week on CEO and add something to it because CEO, search engine optimization, is such an important topic, and you guys really found some great resources. Some I knew about, some I didn't, which was great, and some I've marked for later to check out. So this week, what we're going to do in lecture is we're actually going to look at a product called Search Webmaster Tools, which in a way is SEO because it actually gives you as a webmaster. Now these terms are kind of interesting because webmaster is a term that we often think of as being outdated, but it is still around for somebody that really controls the entire aspect of the website. We can also refer to these sometimes as the front end developer or the full stack developer, so somebody that does the front end and the back end combined. But a webmaster would really be in charge of end-to-end websites, and Google gives some great tools to help webmasters, and I'm going to have you do something for lecture in that, and I'll show you in a minute. And then in the current topics, I'm going to have you actually look at the impacts of social media with SEO. Social media, of course, is, and I know you all have heard the term and you know what it is, kind of, right? Because sometimes people think, well, that's Facebook. Well, Facebook is one of the social media sites out there. There are others, of course, Twitter, of course, Google+, of course, LinkedIn. These are all examples, and the issue really is looking at where we're heading with search, because some will say that social media is going to replace search. And if you think about that, it kind of makes sense in a way, because when I'm looking to buy a new product, one of the first things I may do is ask my social network, like, have they selected a product and what do they use? So personal recommendations is often a way we do research. And so this is just a logical extension of search engine optimization, or of search engines to include a social aspect. As an example, when I now search Google, when I'm logged in, I get in my search results what my people that I've circled, especially on Google+, are saying about this particular topics. Now, it's kind of interesting when I say that when I'm logged into Google, I get Google Plus results. I don't get Facebook results, which kind of makes sense, right? Because Google is not going to show you Facebook results, although wouldn't it kind of be logical if it did? Anyway, we're going to look at this topic. So these, and then on the hands-on this week, two things we're going to look at. I want to hear about your social media experiences, because some of you, I'm guessing many of you, are on social networks. So I'd like to hear, what social networks are you on? What has been your experiences? And then in addition, in the hands-on, we're going to do a little thing called page speed. May seem unrelated, but it actually isn't, because page speed is an important thing. We actually heard from the guy who gave us the week training that people won't wait more than 1 second these days before they move on to a different site. So we really have to have our page speed done well. Okay, so let's turn to the site and take a look at what you need to do. All right, so here's our calendar. Speaking of which, right, so let's see, we're in October, right? We're actually towards the end, this being the last day, right? So we're honing in on the last month and a half of the semester. And normally I've looked at, and I will have this for next week's topic, normally on the midterm, or the project 2, sorry. I actually have you guys go through and organize the course's information into some kind of logical order beyond the way I've done it here. So I'm still thinking about that. I'm actually going to throw this out next week as a part of the current topics to see, you know, what kind of stuff would you want to see me do for project 2, because I really got some great feedback on that. So let's first look at this lecture. Okay, so for the lecture I'm going to have you do a course, okay? In this case, like I told you, webmaster course. So you take the course, and this gives you, let me go down. I just had to, yeah, so that's not a video. I thought it was. So here's take the course and read the example, read the introduction. So what happens here is I want you to work through each of these, right? So in this case, it's really reading, and then you take the quiz. So the quiz really for each module 1, 2, and 3 is how you will show me your work here. Okay, so here's what I want to do. So I want you to then look at the question, right, and cut and paste the question into Blackboard, right, and then it's pretty easy to figure out the answer, but in this case explain why. Don't just, you know, the answer is good and that'll be part of it, but what I'll really look for more importantly is why is this answer true based on what you've learned. Okay, so what you'll want to do is in your let's go back here. In here, right, so in your lecture, first do like the heading for 1.6 quiz, right? And then go back down, write submission here. So do a heading 1.6 quiz, and then really give me the, you know, that's the heading, and then here is your first question. Let's go back here, right? So question 1, so copy and paste that. And then, of course, tell the answer, but more importantly, tell me why that answer is true based on what you've learned. And then question 2, module 2, go through this, understand it, and then again take the quiz. So 2.6 quiz then would do a different heading, and then you would look at, right? So again, give me the correct answer. More importantly, give me why. You know, at least a sentence or two about why that answer is correct. Okay, so that's the lecture for this week. Webmaster tools are really great. It's understanding what services they offer to help you as a webmaster keep your site up and running well. Okay, all right, so let me close this tab. Let's look at the current topics. I'll come back to this one in a minute. Thought I had it open, but I guess I don't. So as I gave you a little preview in the introduction, the current topics this week is going to be about SEO, search engine optimization, and the idea of social media, right? So again, very much like last week, I want you to find articles and links and videos that talk about, you know, how SEO is being affected by social media and is changing basically search. We're changing this. Now, search engine optimization is, of course, optimizing for a search engine your site, but it's also the idea of search, right, in general. So it's really how social media is changing both SEO results and search overall, right? So like I said, find articles and links that talk about this topic. And then the hands-on. So this is really the idea of give me your personal experiences with social media. You know, it's not required for this class. I've actually thought about making it a requirement, and here's why. Let me come back to you just for a minute. So for me, I've noticed here's my social media. I do Facebook daily because I keep up with not just my friends, but my family, some of my students, and other organizations that I'm involved with. So Facebook for me is daily. Google Plus is also daily. Now, Google Plus is very different for me. Google Plus actually I use for more keeping in current with technology topics that I'm interested in. I find much more content related to my industry around Google Plus. So even though I do have some social now, I'm starting to see this because of all the different things that I do around GDG, Google Developer Groups. I actually have quite a bit of social connection there too, but it's also more of keeping up with what's happening happening. I'm on Twitter. I don't actually tweet a lot. I just never found I was that interested in Twitter. It's changing too. Twitter's significantly different these days than it used to be. And I just never got into it. LinkedIn, never got into it. I think that's because I just never, when it became popular, I was already in my profession, so I didn't have a need to socialize to my professional areas. And I know there are other ones out there. So that's kind of my take. So I was kind of curious, and have I seen good and bad? Yeah, I've definitely seen the good and bad. The good part of it is really when people need support on social media, specifically on Facebook, when people reach out for help. It's really great. I see a really amazing outreach, but it's also where when people get freaked out about stuff, they post stuff that's really, to me, fear mongering. And so I really tend to just, either block those posts or block those people who continuously post that stuff. So there's definitely good and bad. Definitely drama. I don't get into anybody that posts drama on my wall. I don't do. But the thing I've noticed is that Facebook is really changing what my wall looks like. They're picking and choosing which of my friends to show me their posts. So I'm liking Facebook less and less. Although again, I often say this to my friends, if you guys were all over on Google Plus, I wouldn't even be on Facebook. But yeah, so anyway, I'm curious about your experiences, and maybe what you could tell me here too is, should I, since social media is such an important part of what we're doing on the web, should I require it to be part of this course? Because I've actually really thought about, and I may have said this in the beginning, having a Google Plus group, because group is a way to communicate information as well. So, all right, so that's one thing. Let me go back to here. So write 200 words about that. And then the other one is really just, I want you to know that this functionality from Google is available. It's called page speed. So what I did is I went and put in the link page, and I put Fresno City College's site, and it gives you like the rating of 0 to 100, how well they did. So on mobile they did 57, which, believe me, is not as bad as I thought it would be. On desktop it's actually a little bit higher, 67. So I want you to find a site that you use regularly, and I want you to go out and talk about, or first find the score, right, and just post your findings. So in this case, where was it? I was right here, right? So in this case, I just want you to report back your findings and any comments that you have about this, because it's really important to understand how fast your page loads. And then and the other thing is this site gives you is really ways that you can increase that speed, right? So this may not be all the things you understand, but minify is really important, right? Minify is the taking out the extra spaces in the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript so it runs faster. So there's definitely recommendations that I think are worth knowing. Okay, so I think that's it. Have a great week. Have a good Halloween. Be safe, and let's hope we get rain in Fresno, right? Peace out.